I'd like to introduce our speaker, Christian Feria, who leads Procurement Sciences AI. He's going to speak on the impact of Gen AI on the end-to-end BD process. Christian has been a leader in the AI community for bids and proposals for the past, I'd say, year and a half, in its infancy. And he has been a popular speaker at APMP Chesapeake chapter. He has been the technical lead on many leading businesses, as well as a decorated veteran. And I'm just so proud to have him on our channel today. So with that, Christian, please take it away.
Awesome. Thanks, Brenda. Everyone can see my screen?
Yes. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, everyone, for attending. If you haven't heard me kind of present before at a webinar, I do like to keep it pretty straightforward. My goal is not to come in here and hard sell you on procurement sciences or what we have. I will show you some of the features just because they're very relevant, but really to give you the information about AI, specifically in the end-to-end BD process and how you can use it. So to start, quick agenda. I'm going to go over my background. I am going to go over procurement sciences, why we're relevant here. I'm going to talk a little bit about artificial intelligence, some basic definitions, some key terms you need to know. I am going to touch on how fast AI is moving, just give you some perspectives, talk about that a little bit. I'm going to talk about a common thing that pops up all the time, which is multi-tenant versus on-prem, what that actually means. I'm going to talk a little bit about evaluating AI software, since every single day, more and more tools keep popping up. So giving you some insights, how you can actually, down select and make an educated decision. I'm going to talk a little bit about warnings and using AI. I would be doing a disservice to everyone if I came out here and just talked about how great AI was, but didn't talk about the warnings you need to be careful of. Then I will give a quick demonstration. So I'm going to show you our platform, some of the types of ways that we teach our customers how to use it throughout, the BD capture proposal process. And then we can do a live Q&A at the end. More than happy to answer any question within reason. So a little bit about my background. I am the founder and CEO of Procurement Sciences. So I started Procurement Sciences. I did about 10 years in government contracting. My last stint was at a very large government contractor. I was the director of business strategy and innovation. Before that, I was a senior solutions architect. So I was in the trenches, ultimately side by side with many of the people on this call, responding to proposals as the technical subject matter expert, ultimately dealing with all the pain points that those involve. And then before that, I was a software engineer at a large government contractor as well. Ultimately, why we started Procurement Sciences was to go back into the industry and solve the pain points that we knew best, because of the same pain points that we dealt with day in, day out. Before my government contracting career, I was in the United States Marine Corps. You could just mute your microphone. So before my career in government contracting, I was in the Marine Corps. I got out. And then as far as my education, so I have a wide range of education. So both from a technical background as well as a business background. So I have a master's degree in innovation entrepreneurship with a focus on engineering. I have a bachelor's degree in business management, and I have a degree in computer science as well. So a little bit about Procurement Sciences, which is my company. One of our mottos is built for contractors by contractors. So just about everyone on our team was a former government contractor, both at the individual contributor level as proposal writers, proposal managers, capture managers, BD analysts, all the way up to senior executives, directors, EVPs, etc. So the problems that we're solving, again, are the problems that we used to deal with firsthand. We are the leaders at the forefront of generative AI. So we used to say leaders at the forefront of AI, and a lot of people kind of got into a tizzy about that. Because the actual field of AI is very large and it is very old. Our company, we focus specifically on generative AI solutions. So our solutions are built from the ground level up around generative AI technology, and that allows us to do things that just weren't possible before. Today, we work with over 100 different leading contractors. We do have a heavy focus on government contractors, but we also have commercial contractors, some academic institutions, and nonprofits as well. We ultimately cater to all sizes of business and all sectors. So we have multiple in the top 10 aerospace defense contractors. all the way through mid and small sized businesses in every single sector, from defense, cyber security, all the way into logistics, janitorial services, anything that someone sells to the government. We have customers that we help with our AI solutions. Ultimately, we cater to business development, capture proposal teams. So some of our tools are very agnostic, which I'll kind of talk about, where pretty much anyone in a company could come in and use these tools to build efficiency. But our goal, again, is to solve the pain points that we know best, and that is that capture BD proposal realm. One myth is that AI is super expensive. Some people might not appreciate this, but the truth is there are a lot of affordable AI solutions out there. You do not need to go out there, break the bank, ultimately risk your business by putting it all in on AI. You can invest in affordable AI solutions, very quickly get them up and running and get value from them. More importantly, we also provide expert AI guidance as well as training. So artificial intelligence, generative AI is a very new type of technology. The truth is we work with a lot of customers, and very few of them pick it up and start running by themselves. They do need guidance, they do need training. So for us, it's important that all of our employees come from government contracting backgrounds, because the ones that are teaching our customers are the ones that were in their shoes before and know exactly how to use the AI and the tools to apply it effectively. More importantly is the training aspect. So we have training programs, we have partnerships with a lot of the leading consulting agencies. Lofeld Consulting is our biggest training partner. So when we kind of started building partnerships with these consulting agencies, what we realized was we are AI software developers. We have backgrounds in government contracting, but we did not write the original methodologies, nor were we going to rewrite the methodologies, right? How to win proposals. So that's where, we partnered with companies like Lofeld Consulting. We taught them AI, we partnered with them, we got them the AI into their hands. They gave us the guidance of how to really shape it towards this industry. And then they started to rewrite those methodologies, those history books around taking like an AI first approach. Another important thing about procurement sciences is all of our solutions are data private. They're all designed around enterprise grade security. Everything is designed around data privacy, where your information is not going to be leaked. Your information is not going to be used for training. It's not going to be commingled, blended with competitors, and then allow competitors to access it. And then lastly, about procurement sciences, we are a venture-backed company. Not that really means anything, but there's many routes to go about it. But for us, we did take venture capital funding. What that means is it allows us to have a very long financial tail where we can continue to invest a huge amount of money into building the industry-leading specific AI solutions, and ultimately get those into our customers' hands, again, making them affordable, not having to charge you a huge amount of money. So starting out with what is AI, again, not trying to give you anyone a history lesson here or dive in too deep. What I want to do is just highlight some very key basic terms. So first off, as I mentioned, AI is not new. AI has been around for over 70 years. First kind of termed back in 1956. AI itself is a massive field of study. It's a huge field of study with many different types of subcomponents. The easiest definition to understand is machines capable of performing tasks that typically require human intelligence. So if you kind of read that, think about that, it's a huge field of study as far as how you could apply AI to so many different types of things. So when someone says AI, it's the same thing as just saying, they drive a car, right? There's so many different types of cars or automobiles, right? So that's where I want to dig in a little bit deeper. So as I mentioned, we focus on generative AI solutions. Generative AI also has been around for, about 10 years, really, where the breakthroughs have taken place with like GANs and things like that, which is a little more advanced. But specifically, the definition of generative AI is that it's AI that can be used to create new content. So generative AI can create new types of content. What that means is it can create audio, it can create code, it can create images, text, videos, simulations, and we're going to keep seeing more and more types of things that generative AI can create. Another big term that pops up is LLM, so a large language model. What a large language model is a model is what powers the AI behind the scenes. So it's like the engine to the car. So an LLM is a machine learning model that ultimately can perform a wide variety of natural language processing tasks. Now, that's a very simple explanation of what an LLM is. but natural language processing is very important to understand. Natural language processing has a huge role in generative AI and how powerful it is. So natural language, the easiest way to understand that is natural language is the same way that you talk to a coworker, you talk to a friend, right? It's natural language. Now, within natural language processing, what makes generative AI so powerful is two components. The first one is what's called NLU, which is natural language understanding. Natural language understanding is the AI's ability for you to give it a bunch of information, whether it's structured or unstructured, a bunch of data, and it can understand it at the human level. So you could give it a proposal, it can automatically read through that entire proposal and understand it at the human level. So that's NLU. Now, NLG is the second portion of natural language processing that's very important. That is natural language generation. So after it understands the text that you give it, it has the ability to generate back and respond to you as if it was a human, right, in natural language. And that combination of natural language understanding, natural language generation paired together is really what makes this generative AI kind of era really erupt right now, because these AIs are getting so smart that they can understand huge amounts of data, process it, and then respond with making sense to it. So as a note, how fast is AI moving? So you can see this kind of the scale here, right? As I mentioned, AI has been around since, the 1950s. That being said, it has had exponential growth over the last, 8 or so years here. The easiest way to understand how fast AI is moving, specifically around generative AI, is about 1 year ago. The max amount of pages that an AI model could actually understand was right around 8. So it's not exactly 8, but about 1 year ago, if you were using ChatGPT, the most it could understand was 8 pages of content. Today, these large language models, many of them are pushing well over 500 pages. So that means instantly they can understand over 500 pages of raw, unstructured text or data and then make sense of it very quickly. So another term I want to bring up is if you have been talking to any sort of AI vendor and you have your IT team on the call, I can almost guarantee that these two questions come up, which is where is it hosted, right? So hosting is very important. Ultimately, my goal here is not to go super deep into the weeds, but to give you the base level understanding of what might pop up if you're in a call with an AI company and your CISO or your CTO is asking these questions. So the first one is a multi-tenant system. So multi-tenant, the easiest way to think about this is it's a managed service. What that means is the software company, like Procurement Sciences, is going to manage the hosting of that. Your IT team does not need to manage the resources, the scalability, the databases, the updates, the things like that. So ultimately, multi-tenant is just like most of the applications you use today. Anything online is usually a multi-tenant architecture. So ultimately, multiple kind of customers can live inside this tenant. It lives inside of the cloud. Everybody's data is segregated. Everybody's secure. We use Microsoft Azure. So there's lots of different cloud hosting platforms out there. Microsoft, the reason we went with that is because of the high level of security and trust. The other thing that you might hear is on-prem. So when a customer talks about on-prem or a company talks about on-prem, really what that means is it's company managed. So if your company wants an on-prem service, that means that their IT department has to manage the application. They have to scale it. They have to apply the resources. They need to deal with the billing for cloud services or infrastructure services. Now, traditionally, some people might kind of take a different approach to this, but on-prem has traditionally been like a server rack, like a physical server in the basement or in a closet of a company. Over the last couple of years, that's kind of shifted where there's been a big push towards like a VPC. So they still kind of classify it as quote unquote on-prem, but what a VPC is a virtual private cloud. So most commonly what that means is your company has their own private instance of Microsoft Azure where all of their data lives. This is when like a big trend that we see, which is when we sell on-prem, most of the customers want to go into a virtual private cloud because of the scalability factor, because it's a lot easier to maintain, but they still have that high level of data security. Now, the one thing that's not on here, which is a little bit more far to the right, is like what they call like a SCIF deployment. So that is 100% isolated off the network. That is a different type of deployment. ultimately we do all of them. So we do multi-tenant, we do on-prem, we even have some SCIF deployments going on right now. But I will tell you that the most common is going to be a multi-tenant deployment. It's going to be the quickest, it's going to be the most affordable. Your second most common is going to be an on-prem deployment within a virtual private cloud. And then your probably least common is going to be within their actual servers. And the reason why that is because the application hosting and the database and all the storage is actually pretty easy. It's more of hosting the large language model, which becomes very expensive and very much of a burden for a company. So like through Microsoft, you can leverage the latest, the greatest models, and ultimately have it protected within your VPC. All right, so next I want to talk about evaluating potential AI software. So one thing that keeps popping up, it really irritates me is, the RFP that's generated, in mere seconds, right? They're all over the place right now. Bunch of small little startups popping up, claiming, we can build an RFP in, a couple seconds. The truth is, you can. Our system can. Many systems can. You can build an RFP response in a couple seconds, a couple minutes. But the truth is, those are going to be a loss. There is almost 0% chance that that proposal that's created in a couple seconds, if you submit that, you're actually going to be awarded. So keep that in mind. There's a lot of kind of snake oil that's being sold out there. But here's a couple ways that you can kind of evaluate potential AI solutions. Number one, most important, is around data privacy, data security. So we just kind of talked about it. Where is it hosted? What data is being used? What access do you have to my data? How can you use my data? What's the requirements if we come off of your system? Do you still have access to it? Is it going to be purged? Do you have, role-based access controls? All of that kind of falls into data privacy security, which should be number one. Number two is it an industry-specific solution? And this is getting more and more popular. So as just about everyone on this call probably knows, a commercial sales proposal versus a government RFP proposal are day and night difference, right? So if you can imagine, there's a lot of solutions out there that can help write these simple little commercial sales proposals that might be like 2 pages long, similar to like a statement of work. But when it comes to a government RFP, so much more complexity, so many more requirements, so much more regulation goes into it, that's where you need to be looking for these industry-specific solutions that cater directly to this environment. Next is around affordability and deployment complexity. So these kind of tie in, hand in hand, as far as, how fast can they spin me up? If we do go on-prem, is it, 3 months? Is it 6 months? Or is it, only a month? And then, if we do want to go and, go into like a SCIF, again, like where have they done it before? Can they actually do it? How much is it going to cost, right? As I mentioned in the beginning, AI does not need to be super expensive. There's a lot of affordable solutions out there. I can tell you that firsthand. I mean, when we talk to customers, they think it's going to be, 5x more than what we actually charge. And, usually it never comes down to the pricing of the actual software. That being said, there are some tools out there that they do try to charge astronomical rates for. I would just say look around, right? You might get one quote that is, 10x more expensive than another solution that you can very easily kind of start to adopt. Next is around guinea pig or proven service. So what this means is, again, lots of little startups popping up. Now, the thing is, do you really want to be the guinea pig for one of these small startups that has, two customers in pilot, or, one small company they're working with, right? Do you really want to trust them with your data? Most of these tools, they all need your data so they can make these proposals more relevant to your company. Huge risk as far as trusting these brand new startups that pop up, 2 kids right out of college trying to, build the next, unicorn startup. Just be very cautious about that, right? And check, who do they work with? What references can you talk to? What case studies do they have? Can they actually back their numbers that they're claiming they can do? Next is around company's financial position. So AI is an investment. You're going to invest your time, your company's money into learning these types of AI systems. So ultimately, how is the company funded, right? Again, they don't need to be a venture-backed company, but are they profitable? Do they have money? Do the founders come from, a position where it's not going to go underwater and they're going to end up selling crypto in a couple months or moving into like a fintech world, right? Are they going to be here in 2 years, in 5 years, in 10 years, right? Because again, it's going to be an investment. The last thing you want to do is invest your time and your resources into learning a platform, and then in 6 months, they go underwater and they're no longer around. And then last is around training and support. This is probably arguably one of the most important as well, which is, what are they offering you for training? Is it, you buy it, you sign up, and you're on your own trying to learn a platform, a whole new type of technology? Or do they have training, right? Do they have customer success managers? Do they have training regimens? Do they have e-learning, things like that? And then also extended support, right? So even on top of the training that the company offers, who do they work with as far as like those consulting agencies again, right? What kind of training services can you go above and beyond to have, user adoption, user immersion, right? Like for us, we work with, Lofeld Consulting, as I mentioned. There's a certification program. You can actually go out and take the public certification program and learn how to use AI, generative AI, the basics within like a 3-day course, right? So do these companies offer anything on those same lines? So getting close to the demo here, before we get into it, I do wanted to share a couple like warnings with using generative AI. So first is around data privacy. Kind of already touched on this multiple times. I'm hoping that at this point, everyone realizes that, tools like ChatGPT, they're taking your data and they're training on it. So it's not in real time. If you leak all of your company's data to ChatGPT, it's not like in real time somebody else can ping that and access that data. What happens is it's in the future models. That's where they train on all the information. So next is around company regulations, which kind of ties into data privacy. So what does your company regulate? What does your company allow you to use? Many companies have banned ChatGPT and Google Bard, tools like that, because they know that they're training on your data, and it's very hard for them to control their employees from actually entering that information in there. And once it goes in, you can't get it back out. So check with your company, figure out what your regulations are. I'm sure your cyber teams, your CISOs, they're going to have some sort of guidance for you to follow. Next is around accuracy and hallucinations. So ultimately, these AI models are very smart, but they still make mistakes. Just like people make mistakes, these AI models make mistakes. They're not always 100% accurate. They also hallucinate. So hallucinate is actually the technical term. A hallucination is where the AI believes it knows more than it actually does, and it gives you an incorrect answer, but it gives it to you in confidence. So it tells you one thing and it believes it's the correct answer, but it really is not based on factual information. So be very cautious of that. Next is around biased responses. These models, these AIs, they're trained on content that goes into them. And just like, writers have biases, when they write that on paper and, the AI ingests that information, the AI starts to pick up on these biases as well. Last two, unethical uses. There are ways and there are bad doers who are using AI to do bad things. There's unethical ways of using it, but ultimately the easiest way is what ethics are. Don't go in there and try to use it for anything unethical. Use it for just standard use cases that you do to kind of help add efficiency to your day-to-day, and there won't be any issues. And the last thing to note around warnings is the AIs will tell you no. So don't be scared that you're going to go in there and do something unethical, or that you're going to break it, or that you're going to do something bad, because the AI has safeguards built in where the AI will tell you straight up, I can't do that, or I'm not able to do that. That's against my training data or my privacy settings, right? So one caveat to that is, let's say you are trying to do something ethical and the AI tells you no. Many times, here's a little trick. You can actually go in there and tell it that it actually can do it, or rephrase the question, and it's going to correct itself and actually go out and do the output for you. So by default, they have these settings in place so that if it detects anything unethical, it'll try to stop itself. But if it does stop itself and it is something that actually is ethical, the AI should help you with, you can go in there and tell the AI, correct itself or reword it, and it will actually give you that output you're looking for. All right, so now I'm going to give you a demo in a couple minutes. I just want to cover a couple things here because I'm sure the questions are going to be asked. Number one, this is our application. So we call this the bidding intelligence system. Number one, this is a private cloud or closed system. So this is multi-tenant. So this one's hosted in the cloud. This one also can be hosted on-prem if chosen. It is 100% data private secure. It does have access to a company's historical data. So that's how it can use the historical information to build very powerful responses. Ultimately, it also has a large amount of data related to state and federal contracting. So we integrate with a huge amount of data sources we bring into the system for you to actually go in there and use. Next is it's model agnostic. What that means is that we do not rely on one single model. We can ultimately use various different types of models. So it is model agnostic, where you can go in there. Right now, we do heavily use like the Microsoft models, but in the future, we can use additional models as well. So let's say, AWS surpasses Microsoft and you want to use their models, we can trigger that. So ultimately you can use it as well. And then lastly, there is a wide range of AI capabilities. So it is very powerful. It can do a lot of different things, but it's not designed for just proposal writing. You can use a lot of different types of ways to apply the AI to your business in just about any sort of role that you might encounter. And then last, it's very affordable. So as I mentioned, you're going to see it's a pretty complex system. I don't want to scare anyone away with that. Ultimately, it can be affordable. Any size business can actually use it. All right. So to start, I'm going to walk through the application. The first thing I'm going to show you is we have a couple different types of tools. So we have some tools which are very agnostic. When I say agnostic, what that means is you can use it for just about any role in your company outside of even proposals, BD, and capture. So the first one I'm going to show you is an AI chat. So if you've played with ChatGPT, Google Bard, Bing Chat, any of those, we have all the same functionality. The biggest differentiator, number one, is going to be around that data privacy, the data security. So ensuring that your data is not being used for training, it's not being leaked, things on those lines. Number two, the biggest differentiator between this tool and ChatGPT is a ChatGPT, those kind of generic tools, they're trying to cater to 500 million people. Anyone they're trying to cater to. For us, it's the complete opposite, where we're domain specific. So everything we do, everything we build is very laser focused on this industry and those pain points that you deal with. And then number three is how easy it is for you to actually integrate with your data. So I can come in here, I can turn on my files, like this one is integrated directly to a SharePoint. So I can come in here, I can see all my different files that are in SharePoint. I can select the AI to use one file. I can select the AI to use 5 files or all of my files. So here I'm telling it to use 56 different files. And now I'm simply coming in here and in natural language, the same way you would talk to one of your coworkers is the same way you communicate with this AI. So I'm looking at 56 past performances, and I'm simply coming in here and asking a question, which is, what have we done with AI projects before? Very quickly goes through, it builds a response, and then it citates where the information came from. So now I can come in here, I can verify the data sources, where it lives. I can jump into that data source to learn more about it. Also, it gives me recommended follow-up prompts. So it's going to try to guide me towards value. It's going to analyze the previous prompt and response, and then give me ideas how to keep getting more value around this, this response. Now, what's important to note is that this is a conversational AI, so it has a memory of this conversation. So it's not just one and done. So what I can do is I can ask it a follow-up question about this information. So I'm simply telling it, format this as a table. I want it to be our experience, who the agency was, and then also create me the value proposition for each of these past performances. So now instantly it takes the data, structures it exactly the way I told it to. Now from here, again, I can verify my data sources. Anytime it's using your internal data or the external data that we collect and source, it's going to citate where it actually came from. Now I could turn off my files, and now I could say, okay, build me an executive summary, build me a past performance write-up. Very quickly, it builds me an executive summary. Now, as we all know in this call, this is a very bad executive summary. It's only 1 paragraph long. So the nice part is you just tell the AI what you don't like about it, whether it's in bullet points or whether it's in broken sentences. You give it the details. So I'm telling it, this is too short. Make it 3 paragraphs, make it 5 paragraphs, make it more inspiring, more technical, less technical. You kind of name it and it's automatically going to adjust itself. Now from here, you can come into your editor. So this is like an AI powered text editor. Now the nice thing here is you can just highlight the text. When you highlight the text, you can select the AI button. And now without any prompting involved, you can come in here and select from all these different types of options that you can apply to that text. So I'll show you more about that when I move into like the proposal tool. But what I'm going to do is just come in here and just show a wide range of very common use cases that you're likely doing day in, day out. So the first one is I'm going to load a solicitation. So this is JETS 2. This is a about 300-page RFP for the DLA. Now, the first way I'm using this is I'm coming in here and just using it for like document Q&A. I'm just doing simple document Q&A, asking the AI, what are the task areas? So very quickly, it's going through the document, it's doing semantic searching, and it's telling me the 12 different task areas within the file. Now I could keep going. So now I could say, okay, task area 3, that's interesting. Help me build a summary of it. Help me outline the key bullet points for this task area, and then help me start to build like a strategy. So really any of like your like bid qualifiers, disqualifiers, any sort of information you're looking for in this document, the AI can semantically search through it, find relevant information, and then use it to build these very powerful outputs. Huge amounts of different types of outputs you can get from it. By default, the AI responds in like a narrative, so like a paragraph format. But then you can also come in here and you can tell it, okay, build me a report, build me a table, turn this into bullet points or a numbered list, simplify this, make this more technical. Any of those commands, instantly the AI is going to correct itself and then come follow those. So now let's say you are interested in going after this opportunity. So now you can come over here, you can start to do some research. So you could say, you know, who is the DLA? So who's the Defense Logistics Agency? Start to learn more about them. I can come in here, start to build a report as far as what's their primary mission, what's their values, create me a list of keywords that are based on their pain points. Lots of different ways to come in here and start to research, you know, an agency or a, you know, potential customer. You can also do competitive intelligence. So you can use just its training data where there is the risk that it might be making those things up. Or you can also have it go out there and use the internet or some files you might have internally, various different data sources we pull from. You can go out there and have the AI point to those and then perform, you know, competitive intelligence against it. So next, what we learned is we don't want our customers to become prompt engineers. So we realized there's so many different types of ways to use this system that we built a library. So you can come into the library, we pre-populate this with over 100 different prompts related to, you know, analysis, competitive intelligence, strategy, you kind of name it. You can come in here, use any of these. You can also go in there and save your favorite prompts. So as you build your own prompts, you can go in there, you can save them into the system, and then you can also share them so that others on your team can use them and build on top of them. So to use it, you hit use. There's a lot of different ways to structure prompts. A lot of the ones that we pre-populate are as simple as just fill in the blank. So it takes all the thinking out of it. You launch the system very quickly. It comes in. You can modify these prompts around the type of like strategic analysis you want. But I can come in here, insert the company name. So insert Raytheon, hit send. Instantly, it's going to start to build that strategic analysis against them. So strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, threats. Again, you can get this to be a lot more advanced. When you start to point it to the various data sources that we source, you can point it to the internet. You can have it go out there and scrape a website if that's enabled for your company. Lots of different ways to have it go in there. You can also tell it, you know, turn this into a table, turn this into a report, emphasize more about the threats, more about the opportunities. Lots of different ways to get value. Another simple way of using it, these systems, is just copying and pasting huge amounts of data. So like here, very simple, I'm just pasting in the first 15 pages of a statement of work, and it's building me a capture and proposal plan. So very simple use case. You can paste in over 100 pages of raw text directly into the chat window, have it summarize it, have it extract key points for you. Lots of different types of ways. The other thing you can do is come in here. I'm telling it to build me a response plan. So I have 6 weeks to respond. I can tell it my methodologies. I can save my methodologies so it can reference those. And then it will go ahead and it will help you build that 6-week strategy. So outlining everything you need to do to respond to this within 6 weeks. Then even more advanced, I could come in here and you can come and say, okay, build me an hourly breakdown. So it starts to build an hourly estimate breakdown for each role, for each task. So your management can very quickly decide, do we need to hire a consultant? Is the juice worth the squeeze here? Do we have enough people, right? So a couple other very common use cases that I'll kind of shoot through is a compliance matrix. We have multiple different tools to build a compliance matrix where you can upload a document and it can shred it and give you a CSV. The one that I personally like most is through the actual prompting. So we provide the prompt to you and then you can modify it to your preferences. The reason why I like this one most is because it gives you so much control. So I'm building a compliance matrix or a requirements matrix. Now, again, it's just simply, you can copy and paste in the task areas, the section C, the section L, the section M, and then you just paste it in and it's going to start to shred it for you in real time. The reason why I like this is we also make it very easy for you to modify the different columns. So you can tell it, column 4, I want you to identify some liability risks. Column 5, I want you to give me tips to respond. So you can be pretty creative. But as soon as you paste it in there, it's instantly going to start to go and shred through that document. So it's going to shred it. It's going to pull out those shells, the must, the wills, the compliance keywords. But then it's also going to go in there and start to look for liability risks. And then also going to start to give you tips for responding to each of these.
Narrow the problem down to one location. The Holt Jeffords vortex. Things would go a lot faster if the two of you did less experimenting and working, and I'm not the only one.
That. So after you build this actual compliance matrix, there's lots of different types of things you can do. What I'm going to show is oral presentation prep. So this is a very basic way of doing it, but you can use it where it's going to take its memory of this section and start to predict potential questions that are going to be asked. So you can tell it easy questions, hard questions, gotcha questions, technical questions, delivery questions, you kind of name it. Then there's a lot of other advanced ways that we teach as far as taking those, building responses based on your past performances, things on those lines. Next, back to the executive summary. As I kind of mentioned, the nice thing is you don't need to talk to these AIs in any right or wrong way. You can come in here and just give it a list of bullet points, tell it, build me an executive summary. Here's the key bullet points we want to include, and it's going to write it. And then again, if you don't like it, you just tell it what you don't like, and it's instantly going to go in there and correct itself. Now, after it builds this response, again, so many different types of ways you can go with this. This AI chat, this is our like generic tool, very agnostic to anything you're trying to do in your company. But the last two things I want to show is you can tell it to act as a different type of role. So I'm telling it, act as a solutions architect, help me start to innovate and create new ways to differentiate ourselves and brainstorm. And then you can also use it for building very common things such as like training programs, deployment plans, system migration plans, system security plans, any of those types of like tedious, annoying plans that take a huge amount of time. You can use the AI to automate a huge portion of those up front. Now, one thing to note is our AI system, many AI systems, the way you should look at these is it's a force multiplier. It's an efficiency boost where it's going to help you get 70, 80, 90% of the way through many different types of things. But ultimately, at the end of the day, the final, 10, 20, 30%, it's very important for the human to be in the driver's seat and drive it to the finish line. All right, so what I just showed you was very generic. That kind of tool suite, those are all of our very agnostic tools. We have people in proposals, BD, capture using it. We also have people in delivery, program management, engineering, executive level leadership using the tool as well because of how many different types of use cases there are. Now, what I'm going to show you this time is very specific to proposal writing. So this is a tool we call IntelliBid. It's really designed around drafting a proposal. So you can come in here, you can ultimately use it to build RFP, RFQ, RFI, grant responses, task order responses. The way you get started, very simply, you come in here, give it some basic settings about your company. So I'm telling it, use an active voice, highlight our past experiences. I could tell it my strategies, my strengths for it to follow. And then it's as simple as coming in. You can load an RFI. So this is an RFI here. Now, a couple different ways to use the system. And we've learned this, which is you can come in here and tell it to build your entire first draft, and it will do that. But the better way to do it is to go section by section. So you can just highlight this section. You can come over, hit the AI button, and now simply I can ask it, explain this to me, give me some writing tips, help me build a strategy. What I'm going to do is just come right in here and tell it to respond. So when I hit respond very quickly, 2.1, 2.2, 2.3, it's going to build those first draft responses. So a couple things to note here is this is using its training data. So these AI models, they come pre-trained. What that means is if you are a brand new company and you do not have data on a certain type of requirement, it's fine because the AI is more than likely already pre-trained on that subject. They can build very good responses for you. These responses that it creates, you should not blindly submit these. You should take these and start to further modify them. Now, again, this was based on its training data. So where it gets really powerful is I can come over here and I can tell it, use these 4 winning proposals, use this product specification, use this security plan, use any of the information you choose for it to start to ground its answers on when it builds the responses. So now I can come back in here, I can highlight the next batch of 5 requirements, then I can tell it respond to requirement, and now it's going to go 2.5, 2.6, 2.7, 2.8, 2.9, responding to these requirements, grounding each requirement response on your actual files. So it's semantically searching through them, finding relevance, pulling it in to help build a first draft response that highly resonates to things that you've done before. Now, again, you should not blindly submit this. I'm going to keep reiterating that. What you should do at this point is get it into your subject matter expert's hands, use the AI to review the different sources, where the data was pulled from, what data was pulled, and then you can use the AI also to fine tune it. So we call it fine tuning, where you use the AI to further enhance it. So I come over here and say, okay, make this more compelling, make this more informative, paraphrase this, proofread this, grammar check this, bunch of different types of options very quickly you can use the AI chat for. The other thing you can do is just highlight the text without any sort of prompting, come to the AI button and say, change the tone, align the tone, add more detail from my files, give me writing tips, review this, lots of different types of things. And the last thing I want to show about this AI writing tool, which is pretty cool, is the autocomplete functionality. So I gave it like 7 or 8 words here, right? AWS, which is a cloud hosting platform. I said AWS is our recommended cloud solution because maybe I have writer's block. I can come in here and just tell it continue writing. It's going to take those 7 or 8 words and write 7 or 8 paragraphs very quickly around that information. So what we've realized is it's very easy for anyone to come in and write a couple bullet points to like an executive summary or to a requirement, right? Here's 5 bullet points we need to include in this executive summary. The difficult part is turning those bullet points into a narrative. But with this type of AI, that's where like there's this huge revolutionary change where you can highlight those 5 bullet points and tell the AI to convert it into a narrative, and it instantly does exactly that. All right, so now the last tool I want to show you is a tool we call Smart Check. So Smart Check is a tool, it's designed to help you review your proposal before you actually submit it. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to load like a pink team, and then I'm going to start to run it through Smart Check. I can either go 1 requirement at a time, or I can do multiple requirements at a time. So when I run Smart Check, this should be a co-pilot. Just like any AI tool, it should never be blindly trusted. But what I'm going to do is feed in the requirements, feed in the responses that I plan on submitting, run a Smart Check, and it's instantly going to start to go through. The first thing it's going to do is check it for compliance. It's going to check to determine if you're in compliance. It's going to give you a reason. It's going to help you get back into compliance. Next, it's going to do a readability score. So a readability score is how well it believes the evaluator can understand your writing, like the grammar levels, the sentence structure. Again, it's going to give you a percentage and then give you recommendations to improve it. Next, it's going to do completeness. Completeness is if you're missing anything in your actual requirement. So what is it asking for that you're missing in your response? Then it's going to do an overall evaluation. It's going to give you some, it's going to identify some potential risks in your response. It's also going to give you ideas for differentiating your response. And then it's going to give you a list of overall scoring improvement tips. So then once it's done, you can take it, you can feed it back into the AI, have the AI rewrite it based on all the feedback or just a subset of the feedback, and then keep going as far as reanalyzing it, tweaking it, adding the human element to it. So that was just kind of scratching the surface. That's like 3 of our main features. We have a bunch of other features as well based on the type of team you're in. But that's a high level. Hopefully that was very informative to kind of show you how it can be used throughout the entire BD lifecycle. So I tried to cover kind of like the start to end kind of workflow, but more than happy to stop here, answer any questions that anyone might have.
Christian, thank you very much. That was like a jam-packed presentation, and we have 8 questions and 12 chat comments, and so let's start to go over some of these questions here. Okay, all right. Okay. Here's a question. If the AI is pulling information from the RFP to generate a proposal, why would this information be duplicated if another company is trying to use the same AI tool from PSA .ai on the same RFP that was issued? I think it's probably everyone has a separate tenant of information, but Christian, do you want to answer this question?
Yeah, great question. So if you go in there and you use any sort of AI tool and ask it like a very generic question, the likelihood is your response is going to look very similar to someone else's response. But that's the same as if you respond in a generic way to a proposal requirement, your response is going to look like anyone else's response, even if it's not using AI. So with our platform, though, to kind of address that a little more like head on, is when you point it to your data, it's grounding it on things you've done before. So it's taking the AI's pre-trained data, but then heavily building on the things that you've actually done. And the last thing to kind of note on that, and this comes back down to the training, which is we've learned a lot, and we tell every one of our customers, do not submit the first thing the AI outputs. Take that first output, take all those efficiency gains, go back in there to use the AI to further enhance it. Have your subject matter experts go in there, add more detail, highlight more about your efficiencies, your kind of information, right? And as soon as you start to do that, it's going to go day and night difference from that first response, right? The AI is very good at getting you to that first draft response, but you should not submit that blind first draft response. That's where you get your SMEs in there to really build that strong final proposal.
Okay, next question here. And if you could keep your answers brief here, that would be great, Christian. Is your AI tool learning on your individual client data, or is it pulling information I guess it's backed by your Azure server? Is your company banking the information gathered from clients? Good question.
Yeah, so ultimately the way the system works is by default, if you don't select any data sources, it uses the pre-trained model. So the pre-trained model is the Azure model, right? And then you layer your data on top of it. So you can say use my files, you can say use the internet, use these other various kind of files, things on those lines, and it can use it, right? And that's what makes it so powerful. Now, as far as the question you ask about like banking, so every company out there has logs, right? So obviously like we log like inputs, outputs, things like that. But we personally, we don't use that data for training. So we do not train models from the ground up. So none of your information is ever used for training. None of your information is ever leaked. None of that information is ever going to be shared with a competitor. It's more for like security purposes, logging it, ensuring that there's no like malicious activity going on within a company. The dangerous part would be if you were going through like a chat GPT, right? They do the same thing, they log it, but then they stick it in a database and start to train on it. So like that's the big differentiator between like a private closed company like us, where we block it off, but we never use that data for actually training anything.
Fantastic. Christian, here's another question from Ricky. Can it use files on Citrix? Can your software use files on Citrix?
Yeah, I'm not 100% sure what Citrix is, but probably. So there's very few things that it can't use files on. So it can integrate with all different types of data stores. If there's like some sort of like password to get in, that's where it starts to have issues. But typically we have some pretty creative solutions where you can like export data and then very quickly just put it right into the system, and then it can use any sort of file formats. It doesn't matter if it's a PowerPoint, if it's a PDF, if it's a Word file, Excel file, any of those is open realm for the AI to ingest it, structure it, and automatically start to pull insights from it.
Okay, here's the next question from Rob. How does AI deal with conflicting information, even within your own data set? That's a great question, Rob.
Yeah, that is a really good question. So a lot of our algorithms are based on what's called like semantic searching. So semantic searching is where the AI is going to go out, your data. So like when you upload a data, we vectorize the data. The vectorized data, they get embedded, it goes into a vector store. The AI does semantic searching against that vector store to find the most relevant information. So there is often times where it does have conflicting information, right? Because it doesn't know. At the end of the day, it's just like a human where it's making a judgment call and it's trying to determine what the best information is. And that's again why we are very much right now, every single AI company, if anyone tells you otherwise, they're lying to you. but we're in the AI co-pilot phase. What that means is the human needs to be in the driver's seat. The human's in the driver's seat. The AI is your co-pilot and helps assist you, right? So that's where it comes in. It's very key for the human to be the one to go in there and do the fact checking. That's why we citate every single data source. So you can go in there very quickly, start to see where did that come from? Where's the information? You can start to ask the AI even how it built its logical responses, have it actually help you kind of determine its reasoning, things on those lines. But very much the human needs to be involved. Don't blindly submit anything. That's why ultimately these SMEs are so important, to go in there, fact check it, align it before they kind of put the final bow on it and submit it.
Okay, here's a question from Amy. Can I upload multiple documents?
Yeah, absolutely. So you can upload as many documents as you want at once. Embedding is the process of getting it into that vector store. Very, very quick. So like a 500-page document, it might take 3 to 5 seconds to embed that entire document, and you can instantly start to get results from it. What that means is within like 3 to 5 seconds, the AI ultimately has the ability to reference information from that document as if it's read it about 1,000 times. So very, very smart, very, very quick. We integrate directly into SharePoint as well. So like when we start up a new company, typically when we onboard them, we'll start that integration depending on how much history they have, so that when the people do get into the system, they hit the ground running as far as being able to access all that historical information. And then you always have the ability to choose whether you're just talking to one file with the AI, talking to a set of files, an entire folder, or all of your files at once as far as looking for information and retrieving information from your knowledge.
Christian, we have 2 more questions here. I hope we can answer for the top of the hour. Also, too, I see your team here is actively engaging with people in the chat and trying to answer their questions. So thanks to the guys at PSI for doing that. All right, here's the next question. How many internal company data capabilities like past performance, resumes, etc., do you realistically need to feed into the tool to get relevant outputs? Good question.
Yeah, that is a good question again. So we've done a lot of studies, a lot of learnings. The truth is, the more data you give it is not always the best answer, right? When you give it fewer data sources that are good data sources, you're going to get far superior results out of it. So the simplest way to answer your question is you don't need any of your past performances, because the AI is already very highly pre-trained and it can build very good responses. But let's say you only have one past performance or one past proposal. That is completely fine, because that is still enough to ground it so that it's no longer generic and that it's more focused towards your company. Another thing you can do is you can give it like a capability statement. You can even point it to your website so it instantly understands your company based on everything that's on the website, and it can use all of that information very quickly to start to cater to it and build some very strong responses.
Okay, here's the last question here, and is user training included with the cost of the platform, or do companies have to purchase training from the training providers separately? Good question.
Yep. Yeah. So we have a couple different options. Personally, for us, we don't cap training. So we do unlimited training. Anytime a customer comes on board, they get a dedicated customer success manager. We teach them end to end on the entire platform. And then we also do unlimited deep dives. So if you want, you could abuse us, you could book us every single week, one-on-one, or you could do group trainings, as many as you want. We're here to kind of support you. But that being said, there is definitely a huge benefit from using these outside consultants like the Lofeld Group to go out there and take those team trainings, right? That is what they specialize in. We can train you, but ultimately they're the ones studying day in, day out how they can apply AI to these former methodologies and then get these huge results from it. And then real quick, Brendan, I'm just looking at the comments. So just to kind of rapid fire, someone asked about DALL-E. We actually do integrate, so I didn't show it today, but we do have image generation capabilities. So we integrate with DALL-E. You can generate images. If anyone's seen AI images before, very obscure. They're probably not where you need them to be for proposals right now. They're getting there pretty quickly, but their biggest downfall is they're not very good at placing words on top of images. Typically, the words they place don't make any sense. They're spelled wrong, and then you can't go in there and edit them very easily. And then someone else asked, last one I'll kind of touch on here is about a proper way of structuring your SharePoint. There is, again, we can try to help you with that. Again, these outside consulting companies can kind of help you with that. that is not even beyond, that's beyond AI, right? Which is, that's kind of like best practices as far as like structuring your methodologies of how you should have your information structured, how it should be built. For us, when we like ingest your SharePoint, it's replicating your SharePoint structure. So however your files are laid out in SharePoint is the same folder and file structure the AI is going to have access to. And then I know we're just about out of time. So if anyone has any further questions, feel free to email us. You can find us on LinkedIn. You can go to our website. We're always open to demos, diving in deeper. You can also email me directly. I can answer any questions that you guys might have. But hopefully this is very helpful.
This has been extremely helpful. I'm sorry we just ran out of time, but do email Christian at procurementsciences.com. I'm kind of highlighting it right here with my cursor. I'd like to thank Christian and the whole PSCI team who's been answering your questions and comments as we've seen on the screen. So thank you very much, Christian. This recording will be on YouTube. So thank you and have a nice day, everybody. Bye-bye.
Thank you, everyone.